So we're going to start here at the library. I've done a quick search for human trafficking. The items I've saved, the settings I've done, are that I want full text, I want them to be scholarly, peer-reviewed journals, and I limited my time frame to 2011 to 2019. That still leaves me with over 7,000. So I started by glancing at this first page, and I have two that I'm going to download. So I wanted you to see that in action. So we know it's got full text. If I click on this larger link of the title, I'm going to be able to go and look at the abstract and all kinds of different elements. But I know I want it. Well, we're going to go ahead and start there. So even though I know I want it, I could just click on that PDF full text. But if I click on the title, I'm going to see all of these great elements. So one thing I don't have students writing right now is an abstract. The idea is that in 300 words or less, I can let my reader know what I'm going to be talking about. So I need to share my thesis, I need to share my process, and I need to share something of my conclusion. So it's a really narrow idea. We use these abstracts for right here, things like in a library database. We use them for the top of a journal, and we use them when we send in information to be at a conference. So when I wanted to present a paper at a conference, I write up an abstract of 300 words or less, and I mail that in and see if they pick me. So it gives us sort of the main word that we've been looking for, and it walks us through some elements. Notice that it says South Carolina, so we have a location. Some of the other articles are based out of Ohio, so that can be helpful. We can make a decision for or against that if we want to look at sort of a larger picture or we want to explore in depth a particular area. The major subjects are here. Those can be useful. I can click on one of those and go. As you can tell, clicking on something like the United States, that would really give me a lot of different concepts. It wouldn't really be about human trafficking anymore. But this is about human trafficking within the nursing industry, so what a nurse should be doing in response to it. So these are other key major subjects that come up. So I'm going to scroll over to here to the side. I don't have everything in my window, and I'm going to download the PDF full text. It's going to usually give me a much bigger window. So you can see this is an article, and when I hover my mouse around the middle bottom, it gives me the chance to zoom in and out or to download that particular piece. So that immediately made a little pop-up of a download. So what I'm going to do next is go ahead and copy the citation. So I'm going to come over here on the side, I'm going to look at citations. I'm going to scroll down to APA. Sometimes these are correct, sometimes they aren't, so we need to double check them. But I'm going to copy that. I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to open it back up in Preview. I have the article opened in Preview. So in a Mac, using Apple products, I'm going to have a program called Preview that's going to open those for me and allow me to add details and notes. So I opened up my note section and I told it I want to add some text. So it brought it up down here. I'm going to move that and change the color so you can see it a little better. Depending on what I'm writing, I change all of this. So I'm going to go for red. And I'm going to click in there and I'm going to do Control Paste. So then I'm going to shrink it and then show you what that looks like. So one of the things I do is I immediately put in something like the citation. So notice that it's all in caps here. That's not a good citation. That's not what it would look like. And that happens. It's okay. Like, happens quite often, but I need to fix it by doing lowercase letters and only highlighting a couple of the words. This is going to be italicized because it's the name of the journal, and that doesn't happen when I copied and pasted it in here. So I'm going to need to do that when I move over to my work. But that helps me get started. That way I know that I have that information because it's easy to lose it. So it tells us a little bit about who the author is. It gives us an overview. It gives us a specific person. It gives us facts. This isn't a newspaper, sort of like in a sort of a circular. So it's not going to approach it the way we are. Her aim is not to give us a paper, a research paper. She's giving us more of a report on different elements. So we're going to start right here, and we're going to look under this newsflash idea to see what she's going to be talking about. So in July 2013, the FBI conducted a multi-state crackdown on human trafficking called Operation Cross Country 7. 2 stories involving South Carolina emerged from this operation. 3 girls are under the age of 18, all under the age of 18, were rescued from a sex trafficking ring in Alabama. They were originally from South Carolina and had been transported state by state, ending up in Alabama. During the same bust, the FBI, for trafficking of a minor, arrested 2 individuals in South Carolina. The minor was advertised online and was being forced to engage in commercial sex acts in a hotel off Two Notch Road in Columbia. The minor said she became involved with the trafficker because he was giving her food, clothes, and shelter while she worked, in quotation marks, for him. So this newsflash element is sort of a little bit like our thesis. It's a little bit different because she's doing a different sort of article. But we're looking near the beginning to say what is sort of the overall scope. So she's telling us what the FBI was doing. She's telling us about the overall sort of law consequences of it, what they were charged with, which gives us good ideas to say, okay, what are the laws on those particular types of charges? And then she's saying why the minor worked with this person, why that minor was sort of staying, what encouraged that minor to stay. So I usually underline those kinds of elements because it gives me the chance to sort of go back and say, without rereading it, because I'm going to forget by the next time I look in here, but instead I have it underlined, and so I save that. So I'm going to do that really quickly. I'm going to go through a couple of elements, and then when I start recording again, you'll see more items noted so that you can see sort of what may be useful for your paper. Few more notes to look at. One of the points here I started to underline is this section about a description of a particular person. So if you look down here, I made a note. This case study is the crux of Miss Ashgoing's report. What duty of care does a nurse have? What should a nurse do? What are the signs that give red flags or warnings for a nurse? She gives us a specific case, and that can be really useful for maybe a specific subtopic of your paper, or it could be a good attention grabber. So in this case, that's what Miss Ashgoing has done. She's given us sort of the news flash of what you may have seen on the local news, and then she's walked into a specific case to let us see what maybe doesn't make sense when this person comes into the emergency room. And then she asks us a question that she's going to repeat a number of times. He has been taking care of her ever since. Is this a case of human trafficking? So each time she gives us an example, she's going to ask the same question. I noticed as I kept reading that she said according to Polaris National Data, which is super exciting because that is what you found as a good resource. So finding that in multiple places that other people have also used it is a great sort of target to go for, that you get to recognize that, hey, I picked that, other people are using it too. So either we're all wrong or we're all right. So in this case, I think you're right. So then we're going to have a couple more names. So notice here she has Rose's story, Little Liz and her story. So she's going to do that a couple of times, and she's always going to ask us, like, she falls a lot. Does that make sense? Here's a great list, recommendations for assessment. We don't necessarily want to just copy and paste lists because our readers tend to skim over elements like that. It happens. And we also don't want to be lazy with that. We want to say, okay, what specifically does my reader need? Because I'm taking her ideas for this larger story that deal with nurses and people coming into the ER. So what do my readers who are exploring, what is human trafficking and what do we do as regular people out on the street? That's going to be a little bit different than what a nurse would do. So we want to look for different elements that could help us or could help people at large. Then notice that she has this list, but then she starts to explore what that list means. So the paragraph following her list shares specific scenarios to help the reader understand the list. That is a great way to do lists or elements like that in your own work. We don't want to just have a block quote or a block of text. We want to say this block of text is important because, and that's where she gives us all of these great points. So for instance, I picked out this idea that, if they are accompanied, if you can get them away privately, then you may be able to find out some more about that person. So as you go through a text like this, you're just looking for things that really you could use. And because her statement up here at the top is about a particular group of people, notice that it's in the South Carolina Nursing Magazine. She has a specific audience. Your audience is different. So you're going to take what you can use from her work. That doesn't impact what she's doing because she's doing for a specific audience. You have a different audience. So you're just sort of mixing and mingling those things. You're thinking, how can I share these ideas with my audience? And obviously, I'm not going to need the same information that her audience needs. Her audience are nurses, and I'm clearly not one of those. So we're looking at those particular elements when we are highlighting. So we may only pick a handful of these things. Maybe, for instance, you want to use Rose's story or Liz's story, and then you want to use that to support your particular paper. That's up to you. But hopefully this gives you some ideas about what's going on. And then, of course, her resources are down here. So for instance, conclusions. These are all in like really bold, lots of exclamation points. And of course, we have page 17, page 16, and that gives us page numbers for our citations if we choose to quote.